Hello, everyone. This is Bob Woosley, National Private Equity Practice Leader for FD and FD Fund Administration. This is a great event we've got going on here. We're going to talk about a strategy that's pertinent to a lot of private equity firms and may be of interest to institutional investors, and that's the idea of a lift out, taking the back office of a private equity firm and lifting them out and bringing them into a third-party fund administrator. So I'm joined by a lot of great guys here, my partners. I'm going to go around and have them introduce themselves. But also I want to say that this is a fun event for us because we're previewing this at the Institutional Limited Partners Association, ILPA's annual summit event, a virtual event of which we're a sponsor now for our third year. So we're delighted for any ILPA members to see this for the first time. So let's go around the horn here. And Tom, why don't you introduce yourself? John, we'll go to you. Andy will go to you. And then we'll go right into the discussion about what this is all about. So Tom, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Bob. My name's Tom DiEgidio. I'm a partner with FD Fund Administration. My main focus for the firm is growth and strategy. FD Fund Administration was founded in 2013 as a result of this very topic. So it's exciting for us to talk about. We have a lot of experience in this space. FDFA, we're a full service fund administration firm. We specialize in private equity and real estate. We offer our clients customized solutions to help them meet the needs of their business. FDFA is headquartered in Philadelphia. We have offices in New York City, Atlanta, and Minneapolis. Thank you very much for having me.
And so you mentioned Minneapolis. We got two Minneapolis guys here who were not in our organization originally. They came to us through this thing we're going to talk about, a lift out. So John and Andy, why don't you introduce yourself? John, let's start with you, and Andy will go to you, and then let's go into the strategy and why it might be of interest to some private equity firms. So John, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Hi, I'm John Haidet. I am a principal in our Minneapolis office that we brought on board with FD Fund Administration through a lift out. I'm excited to talk to you about what that all entailed and the opportunity that it brought for the client that we brought to the firm and the back office that we continue to work with. My background's through Big Four audit. I also then led the back office operations group at the client that we brought over to FD and the back office that we lifted out of the firm. We joined forces with FD just about 2 years now. So it's been great partnership. Lots of fun things to talk through.
Yeah, great. Andy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, John. I'm Andy Huss, also out of our Minneapolis office. Joined FD Fund Administration same way John did. John and I got together and kind of hadn't immediately thought of the lift out strategy, but looked at an opportunity for us to continue our careers as the fund we were at was looking for kind of a wind down option. Prior to that, after that, I joined the client that we were at and was the head of our real estate division, control of our real estate portfolio, oversaw roughly 500 to 600 million in assets under management there, worked with third-party operating partners, and then also assisted on the tax preparation of the fund. Just about 2 years ago, joined FDFA.
Great, thank you, Andy, John, and Tom. So let's take a step back. If you look at the fund administration business and you look at private equity, the stats we're seeing that there's a growing trend for private equity firms to outsource their back office. Some of that's being driven by institutional investors who see advantages and from a transparency and control. Even though a private equity firm doesn't have to do it, it looks like at least 50% of the industry is now doing it. So if you think about a private equity firm doing it in-house with their own staff, or going just completely to a fund administrator, and just bringing them in and having to do something with their existing staff. This is kind of in the middle where a fund administration firm might take their very people, and bring them into their organization. So let's talk about that. Why is that an advantage or disadvantage? What drives a private equity firm to think about this strategy? And Tom, let's go to you. And then we want to talk about the real life experience with John and Andy and how that worked out from their perspective and the perspective of their fund. So, Tom, talk a little bit about why a firm might consider this idea.
Well, I will say that most of the firms that we talk to, their clients are looking for transparency, number one. So it's always nice to have a third-party administrator have an eye on the work and have that independent look at that information. The lift-out strategy and it's sort of like the best of both worlds, right? Clients are interested in outsourcing. A lot of times the fear there is, though, that the people that they're outsourcing the work to, they don't always have or they don't always feel comfortable with sort of letting go of that information and trusting that with a third party. The benefit of a lift out, obviously, is that they get the people that have been servicing the work for a long time, and then also being able to leverage a third party. Like I said, the best of both worlds scenario.
So you had all that cumulative knowledge that they had, and which was interesting. So John, you and Andy, you were lifted out into our organization, even though you reached out to us, which was fantastic. But I know that your organization, your firm, was in a wind down mode. And that was one of the reasons that you said, hey, what can we do with our career? And you found us, which was fabulous. But John, talk a little bit about what maybe motivated the firm itself to consider this idea of letting you guys leave and go into a third party. And then maybe you and Andy could talk a little bit about what the experience has been like for you. So John, let's start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. No, I think a lot of it comes down to, as you mentioned, continuity of the team. The firm Andy and I came from was a distress for control private equity shop with a lot of illiquid investments. So as the partners decided it was time to start winding down the fund, there's obviously the tail and trying to understand, how they're going to meet the needs of the business while retaining the appropriate staff and making sure everybody has enough to stay busy. So this really presented a great option for us to allow the firm we left to retain our knowledge and our resources. Really, we haven't missed a beat there with continuity of understanding the deals. Some of these deals have a long life cycle, understanding the very beginning of them and how ultimately the fund will wrap up. And it also then presented an opportunity for myself, Andy, and the team that we brought with over to FD to really expand and learn so much more about this industry by seeing all the different types of clients and funds that are out there. And so that's been great from our firm's perspective, our team's perspective, to provide a career path and new learning opportunities. But then also we're able to identify best practices that are done in other industries and then bring them back to the client that we brought as well. So it's a win-win in that regard.
What I heard more than anything there is the client is happy, your firm is happy with the arrangement, and I assume that their investors are also happy with it. There was nobody's raising their hand going, oh, don't outsource your back office. It's probably the opposite, I'm sure. Andy, tell us what the experience has been like for you, what you were thinking about going into a lift out, and how's it worked out for you the last couple of years?
Yeah, going into it, to be quite honest, it was a bit uncertain, right? I mean, it's a big change. It sounds scary, but in reality, it's worked out great. Essentially what we did is moved offices, but continued the same relationship with the client, continued the same responsibilities and servicing the client to meet everything they need. And then the bonus on our end was the learning opportunity that John, I, and the rest of the team are seeing through the various different kinds of funds. When we're at the client we were at particularly had a pretty defined strategy. There's obviously different funds can have multiple strategies, but ours in particular was kind of a standard, narrow focus strategy. And so now we've seen, endless amounts of different strategies, different structures. And it's really been eye-opening and exciting to have that learning opportunity again, being a fund administrator and seeing the different strategy types, different, VC versus hedge fund versus private equity and real estate. It's been exciting. So it's been a great experience coming over. It's really, I think, allowed us to, not only continue our career, but expand it into different realms.
As the firm had decided that they weren't going to raise additional funds that we came from, we did lose quite a bit of our team during that wind down, and a lot of knowledge left with the people that were leaving. And we really got down to a core size group that had any one of us peeled off to find a different opportunity, it would have presented new challenges. And so by coming up with a lift out situation and by partnering with FD to retain the knowledge that needed to be retained, it really best of both worlds. Seamless transition to an outsourced back office, retain the knowledge that we need to retain in order to properly administer the fund and take care of all the fund's needs, and provides the team the career opportunity, a future that when you're in a wind down situation, that's on everybody's mind is what's next. And can I wait much longer till the end? And really putting a package like this together to partner with FD, it solved all those problems.
This is a people business, and I want to talk to Tom have Tom talk a little bit about what the process looks like, because I know we've done 2 lift outs at FD Fund Administration. Our original lift out, which was not a wind down, it was an active fund that just saw the advantages of doing it. Yours was a wind down. Tom, you and I have been involved in another one right now that's kind of a hybrid. But what's the process from your standpoint, Tom? And we'll talk a little bit about the people element. What happens when a firm says, hey, let's look at a lift out. What do you guys think, FD Fund Administration? What do you do? What are the steps that are involved in that?
Well, the first step we look at is the space that the client's in. So John and Andy, great example. They were in the distressed debt space. So for us to come in and pick up team members that had that level of experience really bodes well for our business. It's not always easy to find people that have that technical expertise to be able to do a transaction, bring them on board, and then ultimately incorporate that product into your offering. So we now offer distressed debt solutions for our clients. The most important thing I think about, we're a pretty entrepreneurial firm. So we're always in the market to talk to people if they're interested in trying to solve for some problems, whether it's, they've grown their back office quite substantially. They don't want to have that pain of trying to keep building that back office. They're looking for a third party to come in and take that over. The other, to John and Andy's point, their firm was winding down, so we were able to offer them a solution. But it has to be a right fit. I think the most important thing is the cultural fit, right? So you're talking to firms. You want to make sure that it's a right match from a culture perspective, because that's the most important thing, in my opinion, is making sure that the people you're talking to, as well as the client, there's a right fit there, that they view us as a partner, that they know that their people can, do really well working in fund administration. So I think that is the most important piece. Fund administration is a growing industry, as you indicated earlier. Only about half of private equity and real estate firms are using third-party administrators. So there's a real need. Finding a third party that can really help your business.
It's interesting because I know when Andy and John and his team were onboarded, one of the things that's unusual about FD Fund Administration is we're connected to a nationally ranked top 50 CPA firm that's invested a lot in their culture. So I think that CPA professional culture kind of permeates through FD Fund Administration, and I think it helps bring great people like John and Andy who see peers on the FD side as well. And are involved in our culture and our continuing education programs and diversity training and all that. So I think that's fantastic. Well, I'm looking at the clock here, and I know that we're getting close to the end of our time. I want to thank you guys for talking about this. Let's go through some final thoughts. My final thought is that this is something in the right situation, not every situation, but in the right situation, it could be a really great outcome, especially if the employees have, the back office professionals have an entrepreneurial desire and would like to be part of a growing organization. And yet, you have the fund who doesn't want to necessarily fire all these people, when they hire a fund administrator. So it's kind of, and even there's a lot of compelling reasons to hire a fund administrator. So we like this. I know a lot of fund administration providers don't necessarily go this route, but it's something, as you mentioned, Tom, I know that we're excited about. But any final thoughts from you gentlemen before we close up and say bye? Tom, let's go to you, and John, and Andy will end with you. Any final thoughts or comments from you, Tom?
I mean, just as a final thought, I would say if someone is interested in, outsourcing, or not necessarily interested in growing their back office, right? Most managers are focused on investments and deals, and if they're looking for a partner to help them manage their back office, we're happy to talk to them. Feel free to pass along our information, but it's quite a challenge for these firms as they grow. Just finding the right people that have the expertise. I mean, we didn't even touch base about systems and things like that, but there's
technology.
Right. We're set up to be successful in helping our clients, achieve their goals.
Yeah, you did mention systems and technology, which is, we invest in world-class, fund accounting, portals, all the technology. Sometimes it's hard for a private equity firm themselves to stay abreast. And one thing I want to mention too is a lot of these firms are being diligenced on their cybersecurity, asked to get a SOC report, which we have, and we can maybe help check a box as an institutional LP is diligencing a fund. We're going to actually have some more content on that as part of this ILPA conference. John, any final thoughts from you?
Bob, sort of Tom touched on it, that the importance of a culture fit. And one thing, Andy and I, we were fortunate. Our firm's in an area that has a fairly strong private equity presence that's not necessarily tapped by other fund admins. So Andy and I had the opportunity to meet with a number of different firms to sort of find the right one that would be a good fit for our team. And what really drew us to FD was, the culture, how well it takes care of its people, extremely, low turnover rates. Really felt that we could find a home for our team, colleagues that we've worked with for decades, and get everybody the best shot at having a great career and a great future while providing quality service. So it's been a great partnership. I know it won't work in every situation, but it solved a number of the problems that we were trying to take care of.
Great. Thank you, John. Andy, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just add to that, kind of highlight the fact it doesn't necessarily matter what stage of life cycle your funds are at. It can really be the right fit at any time, echoing the fact that if it's the right culture fit of the team. Our situation was a wind down. That's probably the most common opportunity, but the other situation that I've seen other funds in is they're starting to take on too many funds, and that task of growing that back office to maintain all that might be the other perfect time where you consider making that switch to outsourcing instead of continuing to grow that back office or spending your time and resources hiring and trying to hire. I'd encourage you to consider a third-party outsourcing at that time, and especially this lift-out opportunity, because then same thing like us, you do keep your core team and have that historical knowledge, and then you're also they're joining a third-party fund admin to continue servicing the client. So there's really not a set time cycle that you have to be at in order to look at outsourcing. And then definitely agree with the culture fit. John and I did some diligence on a number of different options for our team, and when we kept coming back to it, it was really a couple of things: the way that FD takes care of its people and the focus on providing a quality product. Being in a private equity firm atmosphere, it's a high performance culture, and that expectation it carries over to a third party fund admin when you engage one. So that really resonated with us, and that's what ultimately led us to the choice we made, and we're grateful we did. So I just encourage firms that are in any stage, if it's something you haven't considered or want to consider, to reach out and start discussions, and don't be fearful if you already have a back office and are like, we don't want to have to let go of our team. You don't have to, per se.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. And I would also, one last thought that just came to my mind is, when you have firms that are not winding down but growing, and they're communicating to their institutional investor base that they're going to outsource, and say that institutional investors already diligenced their team and likes their team, this is actually a comforting thing for them to know that that same team is coming over to the administrator. So the jarring disruption that they might think they would feel is totally mitigated by this strategy. Gentlemen, thank you very much. This has been great, and thanks for our viewers. At the end of this, we're going to have everybody's contact information. Again, special thanks to the ILPA Summit members or participants that are here on the at the virtual conference, and the ones that will see this video afterwards. So thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate your time, and have a great day.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Everybody.
Thanks for listening to one of Fraser and Dieter's branded podcasts. To learn more, connect with us on LinkedIn or visit us at FraserDieter.com, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.